my camera, so I'm having a bit of a power situation. So I will just turn my camera on just for the couple of minutes, but then I'll turn it off. The lighting's not good, and this one that I've got does take my battery power, which is not something that's ideal. But let's go for it just for the introduction. All right, there we go. So yes, good evening once again. My name is Rendani, and I'll be the one that will be taking you through this first session. And the purpose is to really lay the foundation. That's number one. And number two, it is just so that you can have a clear expectation in terms of where the profession is going, therefore your IAC is going. And one of the things that we're going to discuss today, there will be the foundation, not just for our IAC course, but also for the APC. So especially if you are planning or you are eligible to sit for APC 2025 and you are planning to do the program after the end of this particular AIC sitting, then these foundations that we're going to discuss today, they don't just get to limit to IAC, but they will be quite relevant because this is the same thing, or this is the same framework that informs the APC as well. So when we talk about the CA of the Future Competency Framework, it is not just limited to IAC, but it is also the same one that program providers and SAICA uses when it comes to the what do you call it, when it comes to the APC. So that is why today's session is such an important one, because once you really understand the kind of things we're talking about, you'll really understand what makes a CA, and why they are still highly valued in the market. In other words, what do they bring? What makes them to be different from other professionals? And therefore, if you want to stand out and be a success, not just in the program, not just in this exam, but as a qualified chartered accountant, you will then get to embrace the kind of things that we are going to discuss today. So please do ask whenever you are not clear. Do ask in order to feed your curiosity and ensure that we get the very best from tonight's session. I'm looking forward to it, and I see is a Pamelo that he or she is quite excited about passing the upcoming sitting. So the journey starts here, the passing starts here. So let's go at it together. So in terms of the copy of the slides, if you have gone through the SharePoint, you will see that this way that it says live classes, there's the material as well as where the videos are going to be included after each and every class. So this particular material, you'll find it under the folder PVAA. But it's one of those that, as I said before, it's not so technical, but it's very foundational. So to really kick it off, when we talk about the CA of the Future Competency Framework, what are we talking about? That's where our journey is going to start. And then the rest of it will be to break down the elements of the CA of the Future Competency Framework, so that when you get to do the questions, when you get to engage with the other lecturers, you are clear about what they're talking, you're clear about where they want to take you, and we will then get to benefit as much as possible from all the engagements. Okay, So then when we talk about the competency framework, what is it trying to do? What it is trying to do, it is to create what we call a responsible leader in business. And what is a responsible leader in business, especially in a time like we are in? So when we talk about a responsible leader in business, we are really talking about you stepping into a position. It does not need to be CFO, it does not need to be CEO, but it is to recognize that you, in the position that you step into, you are looked to behave ethically. You are looked to create sustainable value. When we say we are appointing a CA, they are saying that this particular individual is not just technically competent, but there are other elements that we have seen and we have had, and we are looking forward to add to the DNA of our organization. So the syllabus, as much as it is embodied in an academic qualification, it aims to develop you beyond the academic qualification. You are expected to be someone who's got the personal, professional attitudes and attributes. So these are beyond just the academic. These are beyond the things you learn. These are the things that you live out. And you are expected to also behave ethically. And you are not to do this for the people that are just well off, the people that have got power, but you are to do it for a range of stakeholders. And therefore, when you start seeing all these tools that we get to use from a strategy analysis perspective, things like your 6 capital and how it talks about social and relationship capital, human capital, and how we then talk about your pastel and the porters and think about your suppliers, your customers. We are essentially recognizing that for you to create sustainable value, it is not only going to just be thinking about shareholders, but it's going to be a wide range of stakeholders. Then one of the other things that we need to then be very mindful of, it is then that in order to do that, we need to embrace this concept of integrated thinking. And integrated thinking happens at the intersection when now you have fully developed your technical competencies and you have then developed your enabling competencies as well as your personal or professional values and attitude, your PVA. So when we talk about also, when we say the new format of the IAC, it is in its intention to give recognition or to give a higher weighting to the fact that these enabling competencies, professional values, and attitude are expected of you, and we want you to be mindful of them when you are busy responding to a task. We don't want you to just think, oh, by the way, this will come later on. But we want you to be so intentional to say that if I'm responding, how am I demonstrating my business acumen? How am I demonstrating so on and so on? So that is at the foundation of it, what you are going to be. When you say you want to be a CA, think about this. This is what you are looking to. And this is what, when you said, I've made it, when you said I'm eligible to register as a CA, this is what people will be looking and saying that that means this particular individual, they have these enabling competencies, they have these professional values and attitudes, and they have technical competencies. But one will then say, but how does it look like? How do I then, if I'm to communicate it in my CV, if I'm to communicate it in an interview, if I'm to communicate it in my position, that others are looking up to. How do I live up to this? How do I demonstrate it? And therefore, how do I even demonstrate it in a written assessment like the IAC and the APC? So then, the first thing it is that it is captured in this competency or in this value creation process. This value creation process, it's something that we speak about when we talk about business strategy under management, accounting, and finance and strategy. And one of the things about it, it says that each and every business, for it to create value, it needs what it calls inputs. And if maybe I just quickly jump and come to it. So this is the value creation process as it exists. And it says that for one to create value, they need the capital. Back in the days, you will remember when you studied your studies, they will tell you that each and every business needs financial capital. But that view has just been expanded to say that if you give me all the money in the world, but I struggle to find the right people with that money, then this might then struggle to what? To get me far. If I don't have good relationship with the community, with the regulators, it means that I will not have the favor to be able to implement some of the strategies that I've got, despite me having the equipment and all these other things. So this value creation process then says we need the 6 capitals. And this 6 capital becomes an input to our value creation process, where now our objective is to convert those inputs into outputs so that they can translate into value creation. And it means that at the end of the day, when I ask you, did you, as a responsible leader in business, create value? Back in the day, someone would then say, yeah, when the bank account started the year, it was 100,000. Now it is 500,000. That's clear. But now one could be able to say that, yes, when I started, there was a trust deficit in this particular what? In this particular company from customers and so on. And what I did was to enhance value. If you think about the previous CEO of Saika when he left and when he was being celebrated, you'll remember that he came in at the time that the CA qualification that we so desire was under threat in terms of the trust in the market. There were a number of professionals that were associated to state capture. There were a number of professionals that were associated with questionable dealings related to the Guptas and everything. And we had the likes of African Bank being in the news for the wrong reason and so on. There was a big trust deficit, meaning that the social and relationship capital, as well as the intellectual capital of the CA brand, was not where we would have loved it to be, was not where it will have continued to create sustainable value for us as the members, as well as for the organization. And despite the money that Saika had in its own balance sheet, when you look at the cash resources, that was not necessarily what they were in deficit of, but they were deficit in terms of the brand and the kind of relationship with regulators, with the market, and so on and so on. So in terms of creating value in that particular instance, it was a matter of making sure that there is a change in perspective in the CA brand. And by the time he completed his term, we had seen that the CA brand was the #1 brand in terms of the most trusted accounting professional designation globally. And that was how one will have then measured value. Then this particular qualification or this new framework, it is all about that, to say that how do we position ourselves to then contribute to creating value in the same way that the Saika CEO did for the CA brand. So now, what they've then done, they then said that the CA competency framework, that integrated thinking model we just looked at, can be captured and clarified in this value creation process. In the value creation process, as I've mentioned, the 6 capitals come in. Now, you as a CA, you will now look at that as the inputs, and you will then need to contribute to the development of strategies that will ensure that value is created through those inputs. And this is now where we'll even get to see now you saying that if we are to create value, what do we need? We need to undertake projects. These projects need to be evaluated. These projects needs to be financed. So you will then bring strategies that will help to create or first find value, evaluate that value, and do it, and ensure that there is a plan to mitigate the risk and create the value that we so need. So that's where strategist role comes in. You are now just there to be able to contribute to the process of creating value. Then come number 2, the business activities. When the work has to be done. When the work has to be done, you will need to contribute to making a decision to say, should we buy this asset or that asset? Should we then do it? Should we protect our assets, our revenue, our financial, our capitals in this way or the other? So then we talk about protection of capital. And the topics then will be topics like your risk management. We talk about decision making, and here it will be investment decisions that need to be undertaken. When now we are thinking about mergers and acquisition, we are thinking about capital appraisal, we are thinking about M&A, we are thinking about financing decision. So those will then talk about what we need to do. Then once those things have been done, implemented, and operations are running, as part of protecting that capital, you come in as what? As a management accountant. You ensure that the cost of the company don't balloon out of the sky. You make sure that there's proper control systems. You make sure that there is a clear determination of the cost of the service and the goods that are being produced by the company. That's your role in protecting the capitals of the company. Then there will be an output. There will be the inventory that has been processed, and then there will be outcomes in terms of the revenue has increased, the cash has increased, and so on. So you then come in as a CA to report on the value that has been created. You report on the value that has been created. Then additionally, you will need to make sure that when we report, we are also sending those reports to the right places. Places like what? Places like SARS, places like Revenue Authority, where they will then make sure that we are complying with the tax laws, we are complying in terms of the JSE listing requirements, we are complying with IFRS, we are complying with the Companies Act, and so on. Then, as another level of assurance, we then bring in the auditors. So some of you will then be on the other side, providing assurance and related services. And once we then get the integrated report, we will then know whether value has been increased, decreased, or somewhat transformed from cash to a different asset. So this is where the syllabus really then gets to interact with what? With the real world. So in whatever role you are in, you will need to find and think about, where am I in the value creation process? And as a responsible leader in business, I need to make sure that I am consistently mindful of the value I'm creating. This is not just any other job. This is not just any other profession, but it is really a set of principles, a set of competencies that you are now amassing in order to create sustainable value wherever you are. All these elements, they coexist. You might not find yourself across the entire value chain, but you need to remember that your role is that important in terms of creating sustainable value over time. So with that, let's just now break it down a little bit to say that, all right, when you tell me about professional values and attitude, what am I expecting? How do I point a CA in the room? What will they look like? So this is what they say, that when we talk about professional values and attitude, we are talking about those professional behavior and characteristics that identify CAs as members of the profession. What you are doing is more than just saying, because there is a law that says this, let me follow it. You are actually upholding even ethical principle, things that do not need a particular law, things that are morally acceptable, socially acceptable, and you are leaving them out in order for everyone to see, and in doing that, building the social and relationship capital of the organization you are in. So how do you do that? You do it through three ways. One, ethical leadership. Two, lifelong learning. And three, citizenship. So ethical leadership, this is what then SAICA has confirmed. They have confirmed that ethics will continue to be significant in your exams. So ethics will continue to be significant in your exams. We have seen it before, where now we were expected to know them. Ethical code, CPC, the Companies Act, the King Code, and other related prescripts, to say that this is what is expected of us. So when you see those ethics questions, remember that what they are looking to do is not only to test your knowledge, but it is to develop you to act or behave ethically in different contexts. And one of the things that I hope you have also been noticing is that they've been moving away, not moving away, but further integrating this statement that they've said here, that it is beyond what adhering to the rules of professional conduct. Because sometimes it's easy, or it is a little bit limiting to say, what does the CPC say? Because it means that if the CPC does not say it, you can contravene something that you know very well is not right. And that will then do what? That will then undermine the CA brand. That will undermine you as a responsible leader in business. So they are now having those questions where they said, please do not use the CPC or the Companies Act in responding to this question, because they want to check your moral fiber. They want to check this thing that if it's a characteristic, it means that you need to be bothered by it as a student. Because if you're going to be a professional, you are not going to wake up and things bother you just later on. They need to start bothering you now in this process of development, where now they're telling you that one of the cases in the 2024 paper was a situation where there was a team that wanted to release a game much earlier, but this game was not tested properly. But you'll then look at the CPC, and the CPC does not deal with things like that, specifically when people are making what we consider to be bad decision. Then what they wanted candidates to do was just to think about the principle, like the good for the good for self and good for others principle. That in itself is not a law, but it does provide a framework for you to think and for you to put some kind of safeguard to say, I think I'm taking it a little bit over the board. I think here, by doing this, we might be missing the point. We might get ourselves in trouble. This might not necessarily do it. This might not necessarily reflect what is expected of me as a chartered accountant. So that is something that falls under what? That is something that falls under the ethical leadership. And one of the things in this particular guidance that they had, they were saying that because of this, you can expect ethics to feature in more than one of the papers. Ideally, they will want it to feature in all of them, but therefore, when you talk about ethical leadership, you should not expect it in just one paper. This is something that you can expect in 2 or all of the papers. Then the other thing is about lifelong learning. That as a chartered accountant, you'll be expected to continue growing, to continue and further developing. Just like the qualification itself is further developing and incorporating things like digital acumen in it. It is just to recognize that right now, if you are to do it, if you are to start your journey, if you are to start your journey, it will be unexpected for a CA not to have basic or even enhanced computer skills, such that you are able to think about opportunities that digital technology might bring. When a company comes and saying that we want to improve our customer service, we want to improve the efficiency of our reporting, we want to improve the packs that we put to the board, to the exco, you as a chartered accountant, you are expected to see opportunities to say that we can leverage technology in this way because of your adaptive mindset, because of your inquisitive mindset, and the ability to say that, yes, I might have completed my CTA before they introduce all these things, but it is up to me to learn about AI. It is up to me to learn about the things like machine learning and how we can use them in order to further develop the organization. Then citizenship, then just embodies that you are, as a responsible leader in business, not restricted to just thinking about the organization and its shareholders, but you need to think about personal citizenship. Then this is where we are saying that you as a professional, you should have some set of values towards the people around you. These are the things that you need to have, because if you don't have this set of values, we can teach you ethics day in, day out. We can give you the models, but they will not sink. because you and how you look at other people just doesn't connect appropriately. Then we have business citizenship. The business, as it exists, it is required to comply with laws and regulation. It is required to comply with what? With laws and regulation. So you, as a person that is involved, you need to understand that those laws are intended to protect, say, the customers, the employees. They're intended to protect the community. So by adhering to them, by adhering to the requirements of a license, adhering to the Companies Act, you are really being mindful of the need to do what? Of the need to develop and demonstrate business citizenship. Then additionally, as a professional, you need to remember you are looking out for the what? For the profession. You and I have a responsibility when we do things, they don't look at us and say, but if CAs can do this, then I don't want to be a CA. I don't want to hire a CA because I had thought that CAs, their attitude is impeccable, their work ethic is on top, and all these other things. So this is what you are then expected to be mindful of. So when you think about a CA, professional values and attitudes, I'll want you to keep these three things in mind: ethical leadership, lifelong learning, and citizenship. Then the enabling competencies. So the enabling competencies, there's 5 of them. But the ones that we'll then be spending time on, it will be number 1, critical thinking, which is also called decision-making acumen. Then 2, business acumen. 3, communication skills. Digital acumen, they said that 2025 and 2026, please do not worry about them. You will worry about them when? You will worry about them in the APC, and also what? And also the candidates that will be sitting for IAC as from 2027. That is what they will need to be mindful of. Then planning and organizing, this is just your ability to have effective exam technique and ensure that you manage your time within the exam, within your work environment when you're given task to meet those deadlines. Then number 6, emotional skills, not so much under exam conditions, but as much as they can impact your success in an exam or lack thereof, this is not something that we expect you to be mindful of, as to say, how will they test this in an exam? Where it applies, it's when you get the APC where you are expected to work in a group in 5 days, and some members are really not pulling their weight for you to remain resilient and be able to handle those situations with the kind of intelligence that is expected of a CA. Then critical thinking, business acumen, communication skills, we're going to spend a bit of time on tonight. Then the third bubble, it is what? It is technical competence. So technical competence, what is it? This is the ability to apply knowledge to solve problems in the value creation process. Solving these problems requires the integration of your PVAs and enabling competencies to perform a role to a defined standard. When we talk about technical knowledge, this is the content that makes up the subject of accountancy, as well as other business disciplines that together they do what? that together they form the knowledge that CAs are known to have. So the specific competencies, as we have seen in the value creation process, talk to 1, strategy and governance to create sustainable value. 2, stewardship of capitals to protect these capitals. 3, decision making to increase, decrease, or transform those capitals. Then 4, reporting on value creation. 5, tax governance and compliance. And 6, assurance and related services. So that is how these technical competencies have now been developed. So in other words, they no longer refer to them as accounting, math, and so on, but they refer to them in this new category so that you can have a clear mindset of the value creation process. Then integrated thinking. This is now where you bring it all together. So bringing it all together, it means that I can and they can ask you a question or give you a context where now you might be able to deal with a technical issue. Then part B, on the same issue, you might be required to deal with what? With an ethical issue. So integrated thinking, it is not about integrating the papers, the technical as we know it, but it is about integrating or having assessments that do what? Having assessments that challenge your ability to think critically while you are demonstrating your ability to make decisions, while you are also demonstrating the ability to behave in an ethical manner. And it does not mean you're going to get a big required that says, evaluate this. And you now need to say, what are the tax consideration? What are the math consideration? Is this decision ethical? Is this thing hitting this other enabling competencies? No, that's not the idea here. Because this is still an initial assessment of competence. The task list or the required is still going to be so significant. But in that required, there might be a technical issue that needs to be solved using your enabling competencies. Does that make sense? Does that make sense? Are there any questions at this particular point in time? Right. So what are we saying?